Welcome back to the Hardware Podcast, brought to you by Blue Garage and Xynapse Labs. It's been a little while, but we're back and we're kicking things off with a really good one today. Our guest is Ben Beers, founder of Smarty Plants. So Smarty Plants is a smart plant care sensor designed to help people keep their plants alive and thriving using real-time data. Ben and Smarty Plants is based in London, and Ben has turned a very relatable problem, especially for those of us who cannot keep a plant alive, into a funded, award-winning hardware podcast backed by the British Design Fund. So his Kickstarter campaign hit its funding goal, if I'm not mistaken, Ben, in about just 17 minutes. And it also earned Kickstarter's Projects We Love badge. So yeah, today we're going to dig a little bit into Ben's full journey from idea to prototype, talk to us through the Kickstarter campaign and what's next for Smarty Plants. So Ben, welcome to the podcast. Really keen to hear about your story. So I would like to know, what were you up to before this, and what sort of past experience and expertise did you feel like you brought to this journey with Smarty Plants?
Okay, so, well, thank you, Dilly. Great to be here. Really excited to chat with you guys and hopefully share a bit around, I guess, the journey that we've been on and where we're going. So a bit about me. I, for my sins, was a consultant for about a decade before I started Smarty Plants. And prior to that, worked in technology in a scale up and sort of a couple of other sort of smaller roles before that. Generally, my career has been in technology, a lot of work with data, and then sort of organizational transformation and organizational design. So I think quite fortunate to have had that background and to have had exposure to sort of different industries, different challenges. But it is a different world entirely, starting a company and building it from scratch.
Yeah, Ben, you've done the journey that I wasn't able to do. So on graduation, I applied for management. Was it a management consultancy you worked for?
It was, yeah.
Which one?
So they worked for a couple, both boutiques. So one, P-Cubed, which was project management specialist, and the other was an agile sort of transformation specialist consultancy.
So it's the journey I never took, because I didn't get the jobs that I wanted. So then I ended up going straight into entrepreneurship. I always wonder, what would I have learned? How different is it? And I feel like I did a fork in the road and I went like this, but you've jumped, over that bridge. So can I jump in there, Dilly? Because that's the bit that jumps out at me. Like, what was the thing you were doing just before? So what led you to stop being the management consultant and become the, what would you call yourself? Obviously, you're a hardware tech entrepreneur, but in the world of horticulturalism, how do you articulate the one line for Smarty Plants?
I guess a founder is probably the best way of describing it, because it kind of says there's so many hats. You have to get involved in everything, but you're not the expert in any of it. You've just got to kind of figure it out and understand when to get experts in and when to hire people to take it over and get it done.
What made the jump? Because you quit the job, or what led you to stop that and start this full time? Did it happen instantaneously, or did you have this as a side hustle?
Yeah, so I'd always had in the back of my head that I loved the idea of starting a company, and I sort of played about with one a very, very long time ago. It went terribly, learnt loads of lessons, spent loads of money, and thought maybe that was it. But I guess in the last few years of my career, I was doing some of the most interesting work that I'd ever done professionally. Sort of really interesting sort of C-level challenges across the organization. And I was just not enjoying the job. The work was super interesting, but the environment, the challenge, it was not fulfilling me. And it got to the point that I was just almost looking for something that was just a bit more fulfilling, a bit more interesting. And I had the idea for Smarty Plants, and I guess experimented with it, came up with some prototypes, played about with it, figured that there was a market for it. And I think with work going the way it was, and with the idea looking like it had the potential it did, I jumped in with both feet and founded the business in November 23, and then have almost never looked back since. But it's a real roller coaster. So I think sometimes you question what you're doing, but it is it's been a brilliant journey ever since then.
What gave you that confidence to, like you said, to jump both feet in? Because I know that's something probably a lot of people are struggling with, who are, in their full-time jobs, who got really cool ideas and who probably are working on businesses part-time. So what gave you that confidence?
Confidence is an interesting one because I don't know whether confidence is the right thing. For me, it's almost you're looking at the risks and you're assessing the risks. And I definitely don't recommend taking the approach that I took, because it's really stressful. It's really, really high stress to take that approach. It's super high risk to go and sort of go in with both feet. I think context about my situation is super important. I was really not enjoying work. It was really, like, it was affecting me. And you sort of, I think when you've got this juxtaposition between really enjoying the challenge of the type of work you're doing and working in a career that you've enjoyed for a decade, and it just not wanting to get out of bed to go into the office, it tells you that something's got to change. And so at that point, I was going, I'm going to do something different, whether that's going to a different consultancy or whether that's exploring something else. That I think is where I was headed. I had savings, so consulting. I'm very lucky. Consulting is a great industry to work in. So I'd had savings and had what I thought was about a year's worth of savings to be able to kind of go and experiment. So that gave me, I guess, a bit of freedom to go and at least take a few months to explore it. But by the time I jumped out and started this, tried to do this full time, I had sort of gone out. I'd built prototypes, so I'd validated, does the concept work? I'd gone out, I'd spoken to plenty of potential customers, had got a really, really good reception, and had kind of figured out, I guess, a rough go-to-market with the fact that, hang on a minute, if I build this, I can potentially take it to Kickstarter, and had kind of explored what would I need to do to be able to make that a success. So for me, it wasn't so much confidence, it was having I guess the freedom to be able to take a few months to explore this, whilst I was also considering, do I go and work in different consultancy? What do I do? But also having a pretty clear idea of what do I need to prove to myself in order to show that this is a risk that's worth continuing to take. And so that I guess is why I took the approach that I took. I think it's probably far more sensible to carry on down that journey of prototyping and experimenting and building it out and building that traction before you go in full time. But that was the journey that I've taken.
Ben, it might be helpful for you to just explain in your words what Smarty Plants does, where you're at. You've got our whole audience listening to you. What would be the thing you'd like everyone to know about the business now?
So I guess what we do is we help plant parents understand how to take better care of their plants. So using our smart sensors, we analyze everything that's going on in the environment around it, and then give tailored recommendations to the specific plant that it's sitting with, so you know exactly what to do to give your plants great care. I guess, what have we done? So we've gone, in the last sort of 2 and a bit years, we've gone from a rough idea to selling into 50 countries with thousands of customers, from an idea that I had from a conversation with my partner. So the idea originally came from a conversation I was having with Sophie, my now wife, but girlfriend at the time, where we were redecorating one of the rooms at home, and she sort of had this vision of this sort of beautiful green oasis, and she wanted plants all over the place, and was a bit sort of gutted when we were talking about kind of the vision she had, because she'd killed every plant she'd ever owned, except for one cactus that had survived, I think, sort of 4 or 5 house moves, and and was not looking in the best of state. I was a bit gutted about the fact that she felt she couldn't have plants because it just wanted to support her. And I've got a biology background, so I studied biology, so kind of had a working knowledge of what plants need. So I felt like we could build something that would look at what was happening and be able to tell us this is what we can do to look after it. So I ordered a few components off of Amazon. I think you can kind of see just over there, I've got a breadboard. That was the first one. So it was a Raspberry Pico with a load of sensors kind of wired into it on a breadboard. Learned the basics of electronics, and then next to it there was one that I soldered and put a battery on and blew up and burnt a hole on my desk because I didn't know enough about electronics, but figured it wasn't that hard, and it was a lot harder than I thought. But just sort of played about with that. Got some components off of Amazon, proved that you could build it, and then went out and started speaking to friends and more broadly and finding out, would people buy this? And it definitely sounded like they would. So we carried on from there. Took it to Kickstarter, got some sort of great traction there. As Dilly said, we managed to amazingly hit our sort of funding goal in 17 minutes, which was really cool. And we ended up raising, including the stuff on the sort of post Kickstarter pledge manager, we sold 175,000, of which 130 was in the 30-day campaign. Managed to take that, get some great investment from there. So British Design Fund have come on board as an investor, which is amazing having them on board. Their network and the advice is brilliant, and also have SFC as an early investor as well. So got some really good investors with us. Managed to get some good features. We launched in November of last year and managed to get featured in Lad Bible this morning. We've had some national paper coverage and have built a brilliant team and are now sort of selling globally. So I'm not sure if I answered the question. I think I kind of went a bit beyond that, but I guess that's who we are, who we're building for, and what we've done since we had the idea.
Amazing. It's my favorite story. And what do you see for the future?
What do I see for the future? I think we've got kind of the short-term future and I guess the long-term vision. I think for me, I believe I'm going to sound a little bit mad. I sound less mad every time I say this now because it's clear that things are changing. But I think AI is changing the world. It's an industrial revolution. It's a step change in the capability of technology, and it's a shift in how we engage with it as well. So I believe we'll move from keyboards and screens to it's going to be more conversational, and I'm not even sure what the interfaces are going to be like. But I think the world is fundamentally changing and will shift in ways that we're not quite clear exactly what it's going to look like now. So when I think about the vision for what's for the future for Smarty plants and what we're building, I'm sort of looking at that world and saying, well, what do I think that world might be? And what's currently important that we can build a great business around, and what's going to become more important as time moves on. And for me, when I think about that, I think data. Data is super important, super valuable now. And I think in the future, high quality proprietary data is only going to become more valuable. So I guess where do we go with that? I think being able to make data useful for people and to be able to add value, that's where I think we're going to go. I think for people at the moment to be able to understand and I guess get to know their plants a little bit better through understanding the environment and then kind of knowing, well, what does this plant need? How can you adjust sort of what you're doing to care for it? That's kind of the theme we're building around. Exactly where it goes, I don't know, but I think they're all of the different threads that we're pulling on, and we'll see where that all comes together.
So Ben, so look, I think I got to know you through Dilith, and Dilith has been basically talking about you and Smarty plans a lot, and especially your Kickstarter campaign. And since then, I've been really wanting to talk to you about the Kickstarter campaign, right? So I know all the success you've had, like 70-minute funding call. That's bloody mad. That's amazing. So I'm from a marketing background, and I know how crazy that is, and I know it doesn't really happen by accident either. there should be a lot of planning behind
Mm.
it for your pre-launch campaign. So I just want to know, what did that strategy look like? How was that planning process for you?
I think that's it's a really good point, because I think one of the things, and certainly the view I sort of had when I sort of originally came up with the idea, is that Kickstarter campaigns, you put it up and it's a bit of a gamble. But as you've alluded to, it's anything but. You take a structured approach, and you can figure out whether your campaign is going to be a success or not way before you launch. And so we took quite a structured approach. We worked with an agency. So we worked with an agency called Launchboom, who are absolutely brilliant. Really, really strongly recommend them. But they have a process and a structure that they kind of walk you through and help you out with. And I guess when you look at the anatomy of kind of a Kickstarter campaign, you can break it into three big chunks. You've got your pre-launch campaign, you've got your campaign when you're live, and then you've got your post-campaign with pledge management and fulfillment. And your pre-launch campaign is the most important bit by a country mile. If you just create a Kickstarter page and put it live, it's extremely unlikely that it's going to go well, that it's going to land, that it's going to do what you need it to do. In order to do well when you're actually live on Kickstarter, you need to be picked up by the algorithm. You need to be getting traffic from the site. You need to be driving your own traffic there. And you need Kickstarter to want to show off your campaign and put it in front of people. In order to do that, you've got to give them the signals that your campaign is worthwhile doing that. And part of that comes from driving the traffic and them seeing the numbers go up and going, yeah, okay, if people are buying this, it's probably good. Part of it is from doing something a bit innovative and unique. And that's where the Projects We Love badge comes in. If you can get that, then that, I believe, gives you a bit of a flag in the algorithm that says, okay, this is a bit different, and Kickstarter will start funneling more organic traffic towards you. But the most important thing is that first 24 hours. And I watched a podcast with, I can't remember the guy's name, but he used to work at Kickstarter and had been part of the people who built the original campaign sort of algorithms. And he said that there was a specific flag that campaigns had, which was whether they got funded in the first 24 hours. And he said that flag will affect your ranking for the entirety of your campaign. So you have to get funded at least in the first 24 hours. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle to continue to make your campaign a success. So that's why the pre-launch campaign is a success, because to have a successful, or is so important, because to have a successful campaign, you have to do all of those things. And the only way those things happen is by making sure that when you start, you're in a position to succeed. So having sort of spoken a bit about the middle bit with the campaign, stepping back to the pre-launch, what you need to do in the pre-launch is you need to find your customers, you need to find your people, you need to get people excited about you and get them ready to buy you the moment that your campaign goes live. So a stat like being funded in the first 17 minutes sounds incredible. It sounds like you put it up and people just went, oh my God, this is incredible, I'm going to buy it. And that's not true. The reality is you've got hundreds and thousands of people, hundreds and not hundreds of thousands, ready to buy as soon as you go up. And you're warming them up and you're getting them going. Like as soon as that goes live, I want them to buy. So you've got to have an incentive for them to buy in the first 24 hours. But you've also got to make sure that they are there and ready. And the way that you do that is by collecting email addresses. And so you will, I did paid ads. People take different approaches, but paid ads generally seems to be the one that's most successful. You will go out and you will test different ads. You will test different messaging. You'll test different imagery. You'll test different sort of ways of expressing the pain point and the product. And you just do all the basics to really understand who is it you're trying to speak to and how do they resonate with your product. You run those ads to drive them to a landing page. That landing page, it's a brochure. It shouldn't explain everything. It's not your campaign page. You're not convincing them to buy. You're going, are you interested? So it's a brochure saying, hey, this is what we're building. This is what we're doing. Are you interested? If they're interested, you get them to put in their email address. The next thing that you do is after they put in their email address, you try and qualify. So you want to know when you press go on your campaign that you're going to have however many people back your campaign. If you're just working from an email list, it can be anywhere between 1% and 10% conversion, sometimes more, sometimes less. So that's a really hard number to go, if I need to sell this many units at this price in order to hit my sort of funding goal pretty quickly, it's really hard to know how many people you need to build an email list around to be able to do that. So what you want to do is you want to qualify purchase intent. How serious are people? Do they like the sound of this, or are they actually going to buy it? So you've got that email address after they've come through your landing page. So the next thing you do is you try and qualify purchase intent. So you ask them to put down a deposit. So a $1 deposit, nothing in terms of the overall cost of the product, but it's just an indication to see, will they reach into their wallet to put in card details? Because if so, you can be really confident that they're likely to convert when you're actually launching the campaign. You can test how serious they would be about it. So you're building your email address, and then you create this other group, which we called VIPs, who are people who've just put down a dollar deposit to say, yeah, I'm interested in the campaign. The reason I say dollar, by the way, is because most people on Kickstarter are Americans. So you kind of lean into servicing the American market with it. But you create this group of VIPs, and then you try and get to know them. So as you go on this journey, you're building out this email list and building out these VIPs. You can try and figure out who they are, which can make you more effective in your pre-launch campaign. So we created a Facebook group and invited the people who put down the deposit into the Facebook group and said, come in here, have a chat about the product. We went through and we were posting stuff about ideas that we had, different features we're thinking about implementing, ask questions on colorways, like what colors would they like, and just use it as a way to keep them engaged. But also you can get to know them. So by doing that, you can kind of see who are the people that are backing your product, who are the people that are expressing interest, what are they interested in, and that can help you refine what it is that you're going out to the market and sort of targeting people with. So we learned some really interesting things sort of going on that journey. We figured out that a really, really large proportion of our backers were Disney super fans. Yeah. It was a strange kind of thing to notice, but so many of the backers were like Disney super fans. So we started testing it, and we started running audiences that had nothing to do with plants, but were just targeting people who love Disney. And that was, I think, the second highest performing audience that we had in our pre-launch and sort of live campaign. Similarly, tabletop gaming, we had a huge fan base amongst people who enjoy tabletop gaming. And so I think this is kind of what you do with the pre-launch, is you use it as an opportunity to go out and explore who your customers are, to get feedback on what you're building, both from a product and from the way you're positioning it, and to give yourself as much confidence as you can that when you launch a campaign, it's going to be a success. Because if you've got a few thousand people on that email list and however many hundreds of them have backed, that you're going to get a percentage of that are going to be there day one when you press go. And that's what gives you that initial launch momentum. Maintaining it on the other side is a whole different challenge, but that's the thing that you do to, I guess, have a successful start to a campaign and set yourself up for the best chance of success as you go through the campaign.
So brilliant.
Is your wife a tabletop gamer Disney super fan?
No, she's not.
Okay.
But she is in marketing, which is amazing to be able to bounce ideas off.
Got it.
Nice.
This is your first child, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, we got married last year, so no children just yet.
Yeah, but I think the last episode we had, we're talking about couples in business together, and I don't know, maybe she's not formally in the business with you, but it sounds like she's definitely had a big influence. So I think you can join the illustrious community of couple entrepreneurs. Dilly is one. Dilly's I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Dilly works with her husband,
Yeah.
so I think it's very strong. You're in that group. You pick them, Dilly. You pick the ones.
Exactly.
Wow, what an amazing story! It does sound like the marketing was the the real thing that you cracked. How did the product change through this process of having all of that pre-launch interaction with your customers? You mentioned the color, but did anything else change of what the product ended up being to what you initially envisaged it would be, and the problems that it was solving and what you ended up solving?
Oh, this for me was one of the most amazing parts of the journey. You can kind of see up here some of the changes through the sort of sensor design, but we'd originally, if you go onto the campaign, the Kickstarter campaign, you can see the original design. We had quite a boxy, quite a sort of basic looking design. It just basically looked like a rectangle, a bit like some of the plant labels that you get when you buy it. And we got feedback sort of through the campaign and afterwards that it was a bit boring and actually it wasn't particularly interesting. And I guess a blessing in disguise, we realized that we had to do a bit of a redesign on the PCBA, which meant we had a bit more time than we'd expected post campaign. So having heard that feedback, having got a bit of time to play with, we then went to the backers and said, "Hey, you've told us this is boring. We've got this industrial designer. We contracted an industrial designer to come up with some concepts. We said they've come up with these ideas. What do you think?" And so we got them to vote on sort of different concepts, tell us what they liked, tell us what they didn't like. And we went through 3 rounds of that, and we had sort of 600 of the backers. We had 1,500 customers. 600 of them voted and took part in this process that took us from sort of the boxy one to the sort of quite nice organic form that we've got now. That for me was, I mean, it was an amazing experience to be able to have access to. This is one of the great things about Kickstarter, is you've got access to a group of people who are passionate, love your product, have paid for it, so you know you can trust what they're saying because it's going to sit in their living room, and are really engaged and want to go on that journey of building the product with you. So that for me is one of the biggest changes that we did. That is one of those amazing things that you get from Kickstarter.
How long did that whole campaign planning process take, Ben?
Longer than I thought it would. We started the pre-launch, I think, mid-January, and then we launched mid-June. So it was probably 6 months end to end for the pre-launch. We'd hoped to do it in 3, but the reality is it takes as long as it takes because you need to crack the marketing numbers, and unless you're getting the conversion rates you need to, like on the click through, on the emails, on the purchases or pre-orders, you can't scale it. So you've got to figure that out, and then once you've figured it out, then you can scale it. You know roughly what your campaign goal is, you know what your target is, so then you need to scale it to whatever you think the right number is to have on your email list and your sort of deposit list in order to make that a success. So longer than you thought, but you can't really rush it. It'll take as long as it takes for you to crack it and then scale it.
So Ben, you spoke about the future, AI, data, talking to your plants, getting to know them better, them getting to know you. I love that. In the short term, or like immediately, are you what are you trying to do with the business? You're developing new products, you're improving the product, expanding the market. Where are you at?
So
And also, what stage are you at now? Like, what's your current revenues and what's your production setup look like? If you don't mind me asking.
yeah, well, current revenues is hard to say because we're super early, so we're figuring out what's working, what's not, making sure that we're getting the sort of ROAS numbers before we really try and scale the spend. So the revenue numbers are kind of however much we spend on marketing, and we don't want to spend more until we're seeing the numbers that we want to see. We're, I guess, lucky. I think there's a lot of hard work that went into it, but we've got no hardware issues in our product. So having our first production batch with 9,000 units, and there's some sort of firmware tweaks that we've had to make, but fundamentally the hardware is sound and is working flawlessly. So the real focus at the moment is less on the hardware improvements, but more on the app. And it's really speaking to the customers and seeing what are the areas of the app that you want to improve. So we've had you can design elements of the app and you can put it in front of people, but as soon as the audience goes out, you figure out all of the weird and wonderful things that people do with it. And you figure out, I mean, it's an IoT device, and networks are complex. And so for us at the moment, it's making sure it works absolutely flawlessly for everybody instantly. Then it's going to be building out and adding some of the features to the app. Maybe in future there's other products that we might add to the product line, but right now it's about making sure that the app experience is incredible, and then scaling it and focusing on getting it into as many plant parents' hands as we can in the UK and overseas.
Fantastic.
Thinking about all the different applications for it. And it's always going to be direct to consumer.
Never say never, but that's what we're building it around at the moment. I think that there are some brilliant applications in commercial properties. We've spoken to people who'd be really interested in using it there. But I think until we get to the size that we are able to afford to split our focus, that's not a wise thing for us to be doing. So we've got a brilliant customer base of people that's bought it, and we know that there's a huge demand. There's 22 million plant parents in the UK alone, so it's an enormous opportunity in front of us, and so we want to really focus on making sure that we crack that opportunity before we distract ourselves with other things.
With your marketing, like you're like you're obviously a brilliant product designer, because you've developed a product first time round without any glitches. So you're just doing the software, which is a much easier thing to work on. But the marketing genius. So I'm really fascinated. Who is the ideal person? Where do they live? I know that they like Disney, and I don't even know, what is a tabletop game like Monopoly?
Tabletop gaming, more Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of thing.
That kind of thing. Got it. So who are they? Where do they live? And what is the message that you tell them that makes them think, I'm going to spend, how much is it? And on this.
The sensors range in price depending on whether you're buying a bundle. Individually £40, but they drop to about £26 in bundles if you buy more of them.
Okay.
In terms of who they are, that's really that's the golden question at the moment that we're really trying to make sure that we understand. So we've got sort of good ideas generally of who people are, and we've got a really tight understanding of our Kickstarter customers. Disney Supervan, tabletop gaming, loves gadgets, loves technology, early adopter of that kind of stuff. That's really who are early, and it tends to be a bloke sort of in their sort of 30s, 40s, maybe older 20s. That is definitely the core Kickstarter market that we that we met and built ourselves around originally. We're finding that there is a real millennial uptake. Guys in their sort of 30s, there are lots of plant dads who are super into looking after their house plants and making their house a home. That's a definite market that we're feeling a pull from. We're seeing a lot of interest from women, and interestingly, it tends to be, I guess, late 30s and upwards with women that we're seeing the real traction, the real pull. So it's all sorts. We've got urban millennials who are sort of city based, so London, sort of Bristol, Manchester. We're seeing a lot of interest, a lot of purchases. We're also seeing a lot of people who are sort of a bit further on in their life journey, who are in sort of more rural areas, are a bit more established, and maybe have had a change in life circumstance. So they got a load of plants during lockdown and now have kids and are back in the office and don't have as much time to look after all of these beautiful plants that they've bought. And so there's more of a wanting reassurance that they're doing the right thing and taking some of the mental load away, kind of a challenge for them. But this is what we're really focusing on really nailing the understanding of at the moment and going as deep as we can in each of these different profiles.
I mean, in my head, I'd love it if there was someone that absolutely needed and relied on it. I know there was somebody that I used to know who, when she was going through cancer, bought all of these plants because, of the healing properties that they had. And in that scenario, your device is literally has life-saving potential. I wonder if there are some like really deep stories. And where do you manufacture it now? Like, what's your setup like? What's your
Yeah.
office and
I,
team?
but just on the last one, I think one of the things that's really blown me away is I sort of I wasn't really aware of this as a concept, but we speak to so many people who've got like what they're calling legacy plants, where they've inherited a plant from their grandparents, and the responsibility that they feel having got a plant that's 30, 40, 50 years old even, that's in their home and they're now looking after and they're responsible for. It's there is that real, it's not a plant, it's a connection to their family, and it's an heirloom, and it's something that they absolutely have to look after, and there's no getting a replacement at B&Q for that. And that's one of the things that's really moved me, is when people are buying this and going, look, I feel so much responsibility for this, and actually this they could be doing a great job looking after it, but they're going, this is just for me the reassurance to know that I'm doing everything that I can to look after it. Yeah, there are some incredible stories and connections that people have with the
I,
plants in their home.
yeah, now it just got me thinking. I want to buy one for my mum, so when she goes on holiday, she can check up on the plant and know that I've watered it and not nag me every day. I could be like, look, have a relaxing holiday. Your plant's looked after. Don't trust me. Look on the app. That's an interesting one.
We've had a lot of comments of people going, I went away and left my housemate to look after my plants and they're all dead. And people saying I was left to look after my housemate's plants and I killed them all. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Or I'm on
there is
holiday.
definitely
I
a need
can't
for that.
enjoy my holiday because I'm worrying about whether, the cleaner, my housemate is cleaning, is watering the plants. Oh, it's very
Yeah,
interesting that the things that you unlock through this device, you actually solve something much bigger.
definitely.
That's the
But
night, yeah,
you
the stories that you unfold. And then the other question was just basically, I'm just like nosy. What is your setup? But you're a London-based hardware company, like that's not an easy, often not an easy place to be in, as I know through Blue Garage.
so we're sort of remote. We're all over. So we're sort of officially based in Manchester, but we are kind of spread all over, all over UK, Europe, worldwide. We've got quite a broad team. But we manufacture in China, and I certainly can't take the credit for the hardware elements. I think one of the things that being a consultant teaches you is you figure out what you can figure out, and you know when to bring in experts. And we were fortunate that um, I think the UK ecosystem is incredible for supporting startups and to build a business. I think it is a really brilliant country to build a business in. And early on, actually where I met Dilith, I was part of an incubator called Startup Discovery School, and through that I was lucky to have a mentor called Jim Reeves, who is now working with Studio Matter, but is just an absolute genius on all things sort of product and hardware. And so he kind of coached me quite early on all of the different things to be aware of, and what to watch out for with batteries, magnets, the to know the consequences of the decisions that you're making, and to know what's a difficult decision that's worth making, and where you've got two options, what's the easy decision when you know the cost of the other one. So kind of got that coaching. I got some support from Barclays Eagle Labs. So I had a mentor through them who was head of product at a robotics company. So he brought a number of sort of educational robotics products to market. And after about a year of him sort of coaching me and supporting me, he came on board with the business. So he was then coming on board and taking a lot of the sort of decisions around manufacturing and sort of helping me to build those relationships and to build out that product. And I also was part of another hardware accelerator and got support from Studio Matter through that. So I don't think any of the credit kind of sits with me. The only thing that I've got going for me is that I know enough to know that I don't know how to solve the problems, but to be able to figure out who to go and speak to. And so the fact that the product works and works first time is entirely credit to, I think, the ecosystem and the people that have kind of helped us on this journey and continue to help us on this journey.
From this conversation and based on everything I've heard about you, Ben, one thing really sticks out to me. It's the patience, how patient you be. Over the last few months, I've had the chance to talk to a lot of hardware entrepreneurs, both in the UK and right now I'm based in Sri Lanka and in Sri Lanka as well. And that's something a lot of hardware founders seem to be, especially early stage founders, seem to be struggling with. Um, how did you come to that, to possess this amount of patience, I suppose? And I loved what you said about even with marketing campaigns, you plan for 3 months, but it is what it is. It took you 5 months, which I know completely. It's not something that you can plan for as well, especially, when you don't know the conversion rate from the get-go. So yeah, how did you come to that level, boss?
It's interesting you call me patient because that's not how I'd characterize myself. And I think my team would be kind, but probably say ambitious with what I aim for. I think there's a lot of contradictions in building a company. And I think you're going to be very happy with holding two very different versions of yourself simultaneously. And I think you have to be incredibly impatient and incredibly driven to get it done quickly and to move fast and to focus on the right things and to prioritize and cut out the things that aren't adding value. But you have to do all of that, balancing it with the reality of things don't move as quickly as you want them to and as you'd like them to. And there are going to be a million things that are going to throw up in your way. And you have to be okay with dealing with that. And you have to be able to, I think, recognize that that's a really normal part of the journey. I think one of the things that I find incredibly useful is trying to building a company is stressful. It's really hard work, and it's hard work, and then you do it, and it's so much harder than you think it is. And this isn't intended to put anybody off building it. It is the best thing you'll ever do. It's an incredible thing to do, but it's really hard. And for me, particularly, this is the first time I've done it. So all I'm seeing is that things are really difficult. It's harder than I thought. And it feels like everything's going wrong all of the time, even when things are going right. And so what I try and do is try and baseline, like, is that normal? Is that okay? And I think speaking to other founders, speaking to other people who've gone on the journey, looking at stuff that people put out there who are further ahead, listening to when they talk about what the experience is like is a really important thing to do, because I think it helps you understand that what you're going through is normal, and it might be really challenging and difficult, but actually that's really normal for doing something like this. There's a couple of things that really that I kind of go back to. And one was a quote from Elon Musk, and love him or hate him, he's built some incredible businesses. But he said that the best description he'd ever heard of building a company was that it was like staring into the abyss while eating glass, because you're constantly looking at the destruction of your own company, and everything that you do is incredibly painful because all of the worst problems come to you. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, literally 6 months ago said that he wakes up every day terrified that the company is going to go bankrupt. And so I think if you've got people who've been on that journey and have built these incredible companies, if that's the reality of their day-to-day, then that's just the reality of the day-to-day of building a company. And so you may as well make peace with it and go, well, this is what it's going to be like. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong, although you do want to make sure that there isn't anything wrong. And so that, I think, for me, is when you're saying patience, I don't know it's patience. I think it's more impatience combined with an acceptance of reality and knowing that, okay, every day you make the best of what's in front of you, and you've just got to be just accepting of the fact that it's going to be tough. And what I would say though is I've not woken up a single day and regretted what I'm doing. I absolutely love it. It lights me on fire. I've never had more fun or felt more fulfilled in sort of my professional life. That is the counter to, by the way, it's really hard. And I think you've got to be aware of both sides of that. It is incredible, but it's difficult. It doesn't mean don't do it, but I think just mentally be prepared for it. Um, and 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 if it excites you, jump in with, maybe don't jump in with both feet, but definitely go for it.
So Ben, did you grow up around entrepreneurs, or have you got friends that are entrepreneurs? No. And what about now? Have you got are you in a community? Do you hang? Are you, your LinkedIn says you live in London, but you said the company's based in Manchester.
Company's based in Manchester. I live in Crystal Palace, so I live in sort of southeast London.
Okay.
Um, but the
Billy, you know what's coming
uh,
next. You're a Southeast Londoner hardware entrepreneur. Do you know about Blue Garage? Have you
I
visited?
do,
And what
and I haven't, and I have tried to make my way there, and then got.
I mean, one of the things, the reason we built it is so people like you hang out with loads of other people like you and no longer have to think, oh, I'm doing something weird and crazy. It's just the norm. Like everybody is developing their own business and everybody's chewing glass together, and it no longer is as painful. And it's just what's the word? Um, what's it when you're an outsider? The imposter syndrome thing just goes away because everybody's doing it, right? If you're naked in a nudist colony, it's embarrassing to not be naked, right? So like that is, I don't know if that's a good analogy, but we've come up with a better analogy, Dilly. But basically, it really feels like what you would bring to Blue Garage with all this experience, like launching a product and doing it in this methodical way that you've done it, is just amazing, because so many hardware entrepreneurs are sort of creatives that just jump straight in and haven't thought through the whole marketing and maybe develop the product too early and don't think about the end user. But then what you'd get back, you've just got loads of people that know about IoT, that know about product, that know about international ship, whatever the challenges are, that you'd probably just have those conversations in the building. And you seem like a nice guy. You'd fit in well.
I do need to come and visit, and I think what you're building is spot on. I think you have to surround yourself with people who are doing similar things, so it's a bit more normal, and you've got people who you can cry on the shoulder of, or ask questions, or benefit from their experience. I'm part of a community called Opus, which has been absolutely incredible. So it's a sort of community for early stage sort of founders generally. It is rare finding hardware founders, I think, anywhere. And so what you're building is, I think, absolutely brilliant, because challenges in hardware are unique. I think it's very interesting because I feel like hardware is going to become back in fashion as the way that we build software changes. So very exciting. And hopefully there's loads more hardware founders. And I will definitely have to come along and meet everybody.
Ben, what's your theory on hardware coming back into fashion? I'd love to hear it.
I think that, what do I think? I think that developers 50 years ago had to know how to write code for an operating system, and they don't need to worry about that anymore. I think now code is becoming easier and easier to write. And so I think the role of a developer will change. And I think fundamentally it will become more focused on product. And I think because it will become more focused on product, I think that will open up opportunities to less technical people. It will cheapen, it will make it a lot cheaper to build to build software. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in a number of years' time, you no longer have apps on your phone, that a company like Apple just dynamically generates a user interface entirely tailored to you. And so all you're looking to do is put in inputs or explain what you want, and they'll create all of that. So I think the way that we build software is fundamentally going to change. I think access to hardware will probably be easier, but until people can 3D print circuit boards at home, I think AI is unlikely to be able to directly address that market. Logistically, there's so many challenges, and doing it at scale is a really difficult thing, I think, to just spin up and do. So I think because software is going to become easier to access, is going to become inherently less defensible, I think hardware is going to be the place to be if you want to build a business that is defensible in a really robust way. And so I think investment will probably move in that direction. And I think entrepreneurs that are thinking about how they're building a defensible business will also probably look to move towards more of a hardware component with their business as well.
Interesting. I think, look, this is a really great conversation. I think we could keep talking about this as well, but we are almost at the end of the episodes. And I think, Ben, definitely you should come to Blue Garage, big community.
Billy was in Sri Lanka for the winter and missed London because of Blue Garage.
This is a big one,
I tell
right?
you what,
Like
I think we would have all rather been in Sri Lanka. Really, this is like the rainiest 4 months
exactly.
we've ever had. But yeah, that's amazing.
We have
With a
been
ray of
missing it
sunshine in southeast
because
London.
it's been brilliant. The weather's been brilliant in Sri Lanka for the last few months. But yeah, we've Sherry will been talking about this. So for sure, Ben, go and visit Blue Garage for sure. Really solid place. But yeah. Anyway, guys, so that's a wrap on today's episode of the Hardware Podcast. And huge thank you to Ben for sharing, I guess, this Smarty Plan's journey and all the. I think you give us so many brilliant insights. I can already imagine the kind of snippets I can make from this podcast episode. So that's brilliant. And yeah, if you guys want to also check out Smarty Plans, head over to smartyplans.co.uk. And hope I got it right. Is that all good? Nice.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be
Got
back
it.
soon.
By the way, just before we go, we're on the marketing. Oh, this is the wrap. I want to tell him the idea that I've just come into my head.
Go for
So
it.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping plants alive, but really, I don't know if there's a trend, but does anybody, like with the ashes of a cremation, like put it into a plant and like grow a plant out of it? Is that a common thing? I just imagined
I
maybe
think
some people do. If they
I
do,
think yeah, I think so. I think it's certainly people plant trees over cremated, like over when they
well,
bury people,
you
they've
know,
cremated them.
that is a tree you don't want to die. You can't kill grandma again. You gotta, there's another little marketing there. Rather than stop.
No, I
Hold
agree.
up all these things. Yeah.
They say one of the most important things to do is you need to find a niche of a niche of a niche, and that feels like that would really really niche down for us. I will
sleep on it.
All
Thank you.
All good, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
genuinely. And we should organise. We should organise a time to come along. If you've got any events coming up, let me know. It has genuinely been on my to-do list to come along and see you guys.
Well,
at
you're
some
welcome
point.
anytime. We've got some big events in April, end of April, but come before that. You can even like exhibit these. Whenever we do events, we like to have people in the community exhibiting their products, showcasing it. It's the whole touch and feel of hardware inventors like you. We should have some of your Smarty plant devices in our plants within Blue Garage, despite there being a gardener in the community. The plants aren't always that well looked after. So I think we need some. We could be your first B2B customer.
Let me know. Let me know. And I can bring along some of because it's always interesting, I think, when you've kind of got some of the prototype stuff that people can kind of see. Because I think people really, I think it's really hard to comprehend going from a breadboard to a sort of a product that you're rolling thousands of them off the line, and actually physically seeing like these are the jumps just kind of makes it feel a bit more real, I think, when you're working on some really dodgy looking thing that's
of course it
a bit
is.
of a fire hazard.
You're very lucky. Your museum can be on a shelf. The Museum of Quickscreen, of which I had a similar number of iterations of products, but each one is 2 meters high. So 90% of them had to get thrown in the bin. I had to fight to keep, to keep every 10th version. And now we just carry it. They're just like dusty products in the back corner, all a bit broken. Doesn't look as beautiful and lined up as what you've got there, but very good. Good to keep the prototypes. It tells the story in the most tangible way. Thank you, Dilly, for making this happen. Ben, it was wonderful hearing your story. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Absolute
guys.
pleasure.
See you next time.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.